Welcome to the Uplift Millions show. I am so excited to be here today. We've got an extraordinary guest, one of my favorite humans on earth, Dr. Jamil Sayegh. He is a naturopathic doctor. He's an expert in Huna and Reiki, a transformational healer, and just one of the most extraordinary people that you're ever going to encounter in your life. And I don't say that lightly. I meet extraordinary people all the time. I believe everybody's got their extraordinary, but this being is a ray of light in the world, and someone whose commitment to uplifting humanity is in the top of anyone you're ever going to meet. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Jamil, my friend, my brother, my client, into the stage. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God! If I could reach over and give you a hug, it would be
thank
be
you
awesome.
for having me. And this is such a privilege, and for everyone tuning in, thank you for taking the time. I know our time, our attention, our energy are most valuable assets, and I don't take it lightly that people are here with us.
You know, let's just get right rolling. You're doing extraordinary work in the world to help leaders make big changes in their lives. Let's get right into just that emotional mental release piece. Just talk to people. What is that? When you work with a leader, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I find that so many of us, we walk around carrying these invisible weights, these blocks. And it could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be energetic. Often it's things we've been carrying for decades. And we don't realize it's holding us down, it's sabotaging us, slowing us. And so it's almost like you're trying to fly and you're giving it everything you've got and you're flapping those wings, but you have anchors chained to your ankles. But you're good at what you do. So you're actually able to get the lift and you're up there, but you're wondering, why is it so hard? Why am I struggling? Or shouldn't this be a little bit easier? Or I thought that would make me happy when I got that thing and it's still not there. I still feel that void. And when we can unlock those anchors, then you can just soar. And you can be the version of you that is the most authentic expression of you. And so these blocks, I help people let them go. And when they're mental, they're emotional, physical, energetic, you let them go and your whole life transforms.
Yeah, I've heard you mention the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Can you just take us into that?
Absolutely.
I want every leader out there to, so many of them are high achievers. They're doing all this amazing work and they've got these big accolades, and you've worked with CEOs, you've worked with billionaires. Like you've seen it all at this point, right? And many of them likely may either ignore or think, well, I don't have any of that stuff going on. So I really want to spell it out. Like, what are these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse?
Yeah. It's fascinating too, because it's like the people that I've worked with that are by society standards the most successful, they've had the biggest problems. And so if we come from the space of these 4 horsemen, I call them the 4 horsemen of your apocalypse, meaning whatever it is that life that you'd love to live, these are the 4 things that are going to get in the way of that. These are the 4 blocks.
Pay attention, everybody.
So when I think of the first block, the first horseman, it's called the mask of mediocrity. And so when I think of the word persona, for example, it's Latin for actor's mask. So the mask of mediocrity is, what is the mask that I wear that is the lie? It's who I think I'm supposed to be. It's the pressure from family, from society, from my culture, whatever it is, but I'm living in a way an inauthentic existence. I think this is how I'm supposed to show up. I want to be perceived in a certain way. I walk into a room, I'm afraid I'm going to get found out. Like whatever that might be, that mask of mediocrity is keeping you playing small.
What percentage of them are wearing the mask of mediocrity?
Most.
Yeah. Most. When we say most, like what are we talking here?
Like 90%.
About right around 90, plus or minus 90, right?
Yeah. And then the second block for me is the heart's cage. And so there are these suppressed emotions that we carry often since childhood because we don't necessarily know how to be with our emotions. No one usually teaches that. I know with your son, you mentioned emotional intelligence, wanting to teach that, instill that. In the same way, most people don't really understand, how do I be with my emotions in a healthy way, express them versus suppress them? And when you think about anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, anything, anxiety, anything like that, you carry it in your system. And the precursor from a health perspective to disease is dis-ease, hyphenated. So what's causing that lack of ease? You're carrying resentment. You're carrying the grudge. You're carrying whatever it is you've been holding for decades because so-and-so did something and you have it with you and it's contributing to a lack of performance at work. It's contributing to a cancer or an autoimmune disease, any kind of issue you might be going through. But when you let that go, the lightness on the other side of it is tremendous. And it also is blocking your relationships, let's say, from being as beautiful and fulfilling as they could be. The third block is what I call the mental.
Before you go into that, I just want to dive in. You know, a lot of people that are very successful, you know, don't necessarily connect their emotional stuff that's going on. A, they probably don't want to admit it, and B, they don't want to connect that it might have any impact on their marriage not being as good as it could be, or their business maybe not thriving, especially if they see that their business is currently really successful. Right? Like, help them. Can you just connect the dots between that second horseman of their apocalypse and like how much better could it be if they were getting on the other side of this?
Yeah. So I look at life and business as relationship games. Yeah. So for example, using the playful metaphor of the kids on the playground, you want to be the kid that everybody wants to play with. You want to get invited to the games. You want to be the popular one. You want to do all that. In business, you want people who want to work with you. They want to refer to you. They want to trust you. They want to do business with you, etc. Well, what happens if you're walking around carrying something that either you might not be able to verbalize, people can feel it, and so you don't trust as much. You're not showing up as open. There's not that spark. There's a level of, let's say, heaviness that somebody might feel coming off of you. I've met clients who are very successful 8, 9-figure people in the business world, but you see what they're carrying and they say, I don't know what peace feels like. I don't know what joy feels like. And when you see someone carrying that, it shows. They have all the material trappings, but it looks like they have the weight of the world on their face and on their shoulders. And then you look at their home life and you say, how's your relationships? How much joy is your day-to-day life filled with? And they look at me like I've got 6 heads asking the question because the relationship is non-existent with their spouse. The passion's not there. Their kids are estranged from them. And it's like they might have a lot of meaning they derive from work, which is often why they'll go all into it because they feel like, well, I can be successful in that.
Right.
But then on the other side, what if you really could have it all, quote unquote?
Right.
And it's like you could, but it starts by doing the work on you.
You know, I love what you just said, which is you just redefined what having it all means. Yeah. That's you and I we've had lots of conversations, but that piece right there where it's like having it all is historically the fancy cars, the big house, the CEO title, the corner office. Oh, you've got it all. But what you're really saying here is having it all is sure, have as much money as you want, and no one's here to tell you not to go for that, but like having it all really is the wife is thrilled to see you. She wants to sleep with you for like the right reasons, and your kids like look up to you like superheroes. Yeah. Right?
If I could speak to it, I have this distinction I share with clients. You can go after what you want in order to be happy, or you can go after what you want happily.
Woo.
And if you go after what you want in order to be happy, you're telling yourself the illusion or the lie of I'll be happy when. Right. You're saying the grass is greener on the other side. You're saying there, sometime, not now, is better than now. There is better than here. The challenge with that is you only ever experience here, and you only ever experience now. And if you think that some other time in the future you'll be happy because you'll have something, you're just going to tell yourself the same story down the line when you get that. And so you hold on to this illusion, this lie that I can't have it all. But what if you go after what you want happily, which means I'm going to fall in love with the journey. So if I have an alphabet, A to Z, and I say A is where I start and Z is my end goal, quote unquote. If I'm going after what I want in order to be happy and I say Z is making me happy, then I can be at B, at J, at M, but I'm not there yet. And so the thought is, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, I'm not there yet, and I might give up along the way, I might get discouraged, I might feel shamed because other people seem to have it and I don't. But if I go after what I want happily, I start at A, Z is where I want to quote unquote be, but I really just want to be here at A, and then I work, and I'm in love with the process. And then I get to D, let's say, and I say, D was a dream when I was at A.
Right.
And I can keep the perspective. And so along the journey, I'm excited, I'm getting wins, there's milestones, I'm fulfilled, and I'm quote unquote having it all in the process of attaining it.
Yes.
But that car that you're wanting, that house, that boat, that whatever, when you first get it, yeah, there might be that momentary pleasure, there might be that excitement, but at some point, it's just a car in your driveway. At some point, you've got this mega mansion, but you feel empty inside. And you probably would trade it all if you could have this ecstasy and this fulfillment and this passion in your life. And you could, but it starts, do that first. The external stuff follows.
Whew. I think this piece of it, you could be in the big fancy house alone.
Yeah.
With
Right.
crappy health.
Yeah.
And complete chaos on the other inside. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's been the big piece of, I used to think that inner peace was hard to sell until you realize it's really what everyone craves. And take us through the third and the fourth horseman.
Real quick there, what you just said. So Les Brown, he was a guy I learned from a lot early in my journey. And he had this quote that he shared. He was quoting somebody else. And he said, everybody knows money won't make you happy, but everybody wants to find out for themselves.
Right.
And it's like that idea.
Right.
Right. And so the third block is what I call the mental prison. And these are the beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about others, and about the world that create that glass ceiling. So I'll call it the identity thermostat as an example.
Right.
You're holding yourself at a certain level because this is who I believe I am. So for me, as an example, one of the most dangerous phrases in the human language, this is just the way that I am. Because what's that saying? It's putting you in a box, and it's saying I am this static, unchanging thing.
Right.
To me, in a very literal way, nothing is a noun. Everything's a verb. Everything's a process. Everything's an unfolding. You're not the same as you were a second ago. You're not the same as you were a year ago. The body's always turning over. Your persona's always changing. Everything's always evolving. And so what are the beliefs, the core wounds, the limitations, the greatest hits for me? It's like the top 5 to 7 that show up. It doesn't have to be any of these, but they're common. The most successful people I've worked with are walking around with, I'm not enough, I don't matter,
Right.
I don't deserve, I'm not important, I'm not good enough. If it's a man, it might be I'm not masculine enough. If it's like, the world isn't safe. It's like whatever we're holding, and we don't realize they're unconscious. And so they drive us because everything, all behavior is built on top of that. I call it your core blueprint. So you've got your thoughts and you've got your beliefs, but what's that based on? Where are those thoughts arising from? It's the paradigm or the filter with which you see the world. And so I'll give you an example. There was this gentleman I worked with years ago, really successful real estate broker. And it's our first conversation. We haven't started our work formally yet. And he said to me, I said, what is it you'd love from our work? And he said, I want to be the #1 real estate broker in the country.
Boom.
And he's the kind of guy that you're like, whether I'm working with him or not, he's probably going to do that.
Right.
Like, because he is
Right.
that kind of guy. And I thought, okay, interesting. Why do you want that?
Right.
And he gives me an answer. And just I felt intuitively there's something more. And I kept asking, and why is that important? And what if you got that, then what becomes available? And I asked like 7 to 10 different times. Eventually he starts to cry.
Yeah.
And visually he's the kind of guy that you don't think is just going to cry.
Right.
And so I said, would you like to share with me what's coming up for you? And he says, I just realized that if I'm #1, maybe my dad will finally tell me he loves me.
Boom.
And he never realized his whole life that was driving him. Because for him, his younger sister, 3 years younger, in his words, daddy's little princess, perfect as she is, accepted. He had to be a straight A student and a star athlete just to get a good job. So if he equates in his mind unconsciously performance equals love and validation and acceptance. So he spends his whole life as a high achiever, as a high performer. And for me, it's like, all right, I want to help you become #1. But we're going to start with you getting the relationship with your dad right, because you can have that now.
Boom. Wow.
And it's like, why wait?
Wow. I just want everyone to take that in, because people can hear these things and think, well, what does this have to do with being a high performer?
Yeah.
Right. And I know that you work with high performers across all sorts of industries and occupations. And I love that reframe, that you still get to be a high performer. You still get to go after, but why are you doing it?
Yeah. If I could speak to that. So for our listeners, I want you to think about what are all the different areas of your life. So you have your career, you have your finances, you have your family, you have your health, you have your spirituality, your contribution, all the different areas. Think of them like boats. And one of my favorite quotes is the rising tide lifts all boats. So when you think about what is the common denominator in all the different areas of your life, you. So what's holding back the results that you're wanting most? You. And so I've had people who've hired me. Most of my clients are between 10 and 40 years older than me. Right. And so they've created more in the physical world. They've created more financial abundance, let's say. but I know people, meaning I know how people work. I know how we sabotage.
Yes.
I know how we get on our own way. I know how to unlock people. And so I've had people tell me, I've been struggling with that issue. My business team, no one's been able to solve it for months. You helped me solve that in 40 minutes. You don't know anything about my business.
Right.
How did you do that? And I said, I don't have to understand your business. I'm not a consultant. You understand your business. I'm seeing what you don't see, and I'm seeing how you get in your own way. And if I can unlock that for you, your natural brilliance, your natural genius, that visual of the bird flapping its wings, I just unlock that. You don't have to get coaching on how do I fly higher.
Right.
You can get up there. It's just, let's just free the weight.
Woo! Let's get the ankle, the ball and chain off the ankle that you don't even realize that they're flying with.
Yeah.
And what's amazing about some of these high performers is they're actually flying. They're off the ground with that ball and chain, right? So they're like, I'm flying. Look at me. And you're like, oh, if only you saw how you could fly without it.
Yeah.
What's the fourth one?
Yeah, the fourth one is what I call the fog of uncertainty. And so it's the idea that because I'm not crystal clear on who I am, because I may not even know what I want, I know what I believe I'm supposed to have. I know what people have conditioned me to believe that that's what success means. So I go after it, but do I actually want that? I might, like you said, have all the money you want, have the cars, the houses, the impact, beautiful. But do you realize that your fulfillment and your peace and your happiness are an inside job? And they start here, not out there. And so that fog of uncertainty, I don't really know who I am. I don't really know my values, what's actually important to me. I remember early on in my journey, I was 15 years old. I got exposed to Tony Robbins for the first time. And he had this quote that always stuck with me. Decisions are easy when values are clear. When you know your values, when you know what's important to you, and then my addition to it, when you know who you are, who you choose to be in this world, now I know that. I know what's important, and then I have my goal. What do I want to experience? What do I want to have? I've got my GPS coordinates, my North Star. The fog lifts and you just move. But it's hard to know who you are when you've got all these blocks and limitations telling you who you're not.
Sure.
You know, and we're living into the lie, but we don't know it's a lie. And so there's this story that I'll wrap up on with this. It's a fun little story. Two fish are swimming in the water in the ocean, and they swim by an old fish, like a grandpa fish. And he goes, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And they look at him like confused. And they keep swimming, and after a while, one of them speaks up, and he goes, "What the heck is water?" And it's like they don't know the water because it's the medium in which they've always been.
Right.
In the same way, you don't know the blocks and the beliefs and the suppressed things because it's the medium in which you've always been. It's been normalized.
Woo.
And you don't realize it's blocking you in every way. And so some people are listening right now, and they've got actively experienced challenges and problems, and they're like, I need help with this. Other people are experiencing a good amount of success, and they don't realize, though, that their game could be so much higher. Their impact could be so much more if they freed themselves from what they've been carrying.
I hope everybody's really taking that in. I mean, that's a different spin. You know, I have a very literal brain in certain ways. And whenever people say, you don't know who you are, I'd say, what does that mean? But what I really heard you say differently there was, how could you know who you really are if you've spent your entire lifetime living amidst all of these limiting beliefs, these patterns, these fears, this and that? Is that right?
Yes, I've got a distinction I share with people. There's who you are and there's who you're being. In my own paradigm, you know, try it on. Who you are is whole, perfect, and complete. Who you are is a spiritual being having a human experience. Yes. Who you are cannot be improved upon. But then there's who you're being, and who you're being is a moment-to-moment expression. So who I'm being could be loving. Who I'm being could be impatient. Who I'm being could be a jerk. Who I'm being could be frustrated. Who I'm being could be grateful and peaceful. Who I'm being is not who I am. But the thing is, there's a word, identity. And I remember when I heard this years ago, I loved it. So identity comes from a Latin word, and it means repeated being. So I said earlier, one of the most dangerous phrases in the human language, let's say, is "this is just the way that I am." Right. Well, that's saying that this is my identity. That's who I am. But identity is not a static, unchanging thing. Identity is who you repeatedly be. But the thing is, you've repeatedly been it for so long that it's become conditioned and you went unconscious to it. And now you tell yourself the lie, this is just who I am. So then you see somebody else who's creating some kind of result that you think is beautiful and big, and I want that, but I can't do that. Like that person, so they have A, B, and C. I could never be that way. It's like, when did you decide that? Just that question alone. When did you decide that that wasn't available for you? And people take that in, and if they actually consider it, they don't think of it as a decision. They think of it as a set in stone thing. Like, I wasn't made for that. I wasn't cut out for that. That's not true. And so you can't know who you are. You can't not be who you are, right? I can say I don't believe in gravity, but it believes in me. But if we come from that space of I can't not be who I am, but I can believe that I'm less than who I am. And because our felt experience of reality is based on our focus, our attention, our paradigm, whoever I believe, like the way I often say it is, language creates. The way you describe your reality becomes your reality, your experience of it. So the way I relate to myself, the way I see myself, that determines when I walk into that room, what's the level of congruency? What's the level of competence and confidence? What's the level of joy I'll give myself permission to experience? How authentic and free can I be in my expression versus I'm looking at everybody in the room wondering, are they judging me? Do I have to be a certain way? I'm afraid I'm going to get found out because, this, and this are great, but that area in my life, I hope they don't ask me about that.
Right.
It's like, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. But it's like we're walking around carrying so much, and it's incredible to see, how quickly it can be let go of, but on the other side of it, the level of freedom that you experience physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I don't have words for it.
Can you talk to us a little bit about in a brief period, the journey with your father?
Yeah, sure. So the big picture version of it. So I was 19 years old, and I was in New York City. I went to college in the Bronx in Fordham University. I'm in my undergrad, and I'm in my second year, and I believe it's around a Tuesday. And I'm part of this pre-med group, and they say to me, hey, every year, our group goes to Albany, which is the capital of the state, to basically fight to keep our funding for the program. And we bring some students who've been getting benefit from the program. We think you'd be great. Would you mind coming and representing and sharing your experience? And I said, sure, when is it? And they said, we're going to leave on Friday morning. We're going to come back Sunday night. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm in. So Wednesday rolls around, and I start getting this intuition whispering to me, something's not right, don't go. And it was odd to receive that, because up until that point in my life, I didn't really think in terms of intuition. I didn't listen to things like that. So something's not right, don't go. And it was with me just most of the day. And like many of us, I ignored that. And then the next day rolls around, and it's yelling at me. Something's not right, don't go. And I'm thinking, all right, I told them I'm going to go. Like, I didn't relate to commitment and integrity the way I do now.
Right.
This is a while ago, but I did still try to live that way. And so I remember thinking, I need to go to this. I told them I'd go. By the evening, it's yelling so loudly, I knew I couldn't ignore it. So I sent an email. I'm so sorry. Something came up. I can't make it. And which is interesting, in hindsight, in the moment, that didn't feel authentic. That didn't really feel like, it felt kind of like a lie.
Right.
But that intuition was so strong. I'm like, I have to listen to this. Friday, the group leaves. I have a regular day. Saturday, regular day. By Saturday night, I'm thinking, whatever that was, maybe that was nothing. And I guess I just missed out on the opportunity. And again, they're not going to come back till Sunday night. Sunday morning changed my whole life. I woke up in the morning, and literally like 5 minutes after I woke up, my father was in the bathroom, and he had a brain aneurysm. And for anyone who's not familiar, I want you to imagine a tube, and then imagine it's in the brain, and it starts to balloon out. And if you're fortunate, you have one of the worst headaches of your life, you go to the hospital, hopefully they're able to take care of you, you're able to get out, and you pretty much have a regular life. My dad wasn't as fortunate, and his aneurysm ruptured. And so he's behind a locked door, and I broke the door to get him out. And if I wasn't home, he would have died right there. And next thing you know, we're in the hospital. It's 4-hour brain surgery. And we're being told, the chance of survival are less than 5%. And I'm trying to be strong for my family, doing what I can. And we get, on the other side of it, 4 hours later, and the neurosurgeon came out, and my dad survived. And he said he's in a coma. He's unlikely to ever wake up. He's in this hypercritical state where he could die at any moment. It was the worst aneurysm he ever saw. And it was like a miracle that he's alive. So I walk into the room, and I'd never seen a human being in this like vulnerable of a state. Tubes, everything coming out of him without being too visual. And in that moment, I had this profound sense of regret. I was 19, he was 49, and I recognized that I didn't know him the way that I could have.
Yeah.
I recognized that up until that point in my life, I bought into the story, the illusion, the lie, I have time. And as a result of that, I'm like, my dad's got 50 more years. Why do I need to do this now? Meaning my priorities were my friends. It was, loved video games. I was into movies. I was a track athlete. And so working out, being in community, not let me get to know my dad man to man, soul to soul, and find out lessons and all these things. I didn't think that way. And so there I was in the hospital thinking that I really messed up, that I wasn't going to have an opportunity to basically right that wrong. I wasn't going to have an opportunity to do this over again. And I was very fortunate that, fast forwarding, he survived 3 years before he passed away. And he was in a coma for several months, but then he came out of it.
Wow.
And he was, it was not the same. He was very different, and there was a lot of rehabilitation that was necessary. But I took several years off to be one of his primary caregivers, and my whole life shifted. I went from not knowing him that well to spending like 10 to 15 hours a day with him. We did everything together.
Wow.
And he became one of my best friends.
Right.
And I went through these processes of my highest highs and my lowest lows. He had memory issues after that. He had, sometimes he forgot who I was.
Yeah.
And when that happened, it felt like the ground beneath me gave out because I was arguing that I wasn't his nephew.
Right.
And obviously it's not his fault. He's not doing it intentionally. And then he was prone to seizures after that. And sometimes he's having a literally 5-minute seizure. If I just stop talking right now and I stared at you, it's 5 seconds, give or take. Imagine 5 minutes of a 200-pound, give or take, man standing up, completely seizing in your arms.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Phones across the table or across the room. And it's like, I can't do anything right now because I can't let him go. Yeah. And it's like that happened hundreds of times. And he almost died in my arms so many times to the point where I started to recognize, what if this was the last day I'm going to see my dad?
That's right.
So he needed someone with him all the time. So I tuck him into bed. And when I said goodnight, I thought, what if that was the last time I see him?
That's right.
And so every day I woke up, when he was there, the mindset was, he's here today. He might not be here tomorrow. I'm going to make the most from this. I'm going to squeeze every drop out of this.
That's right.
And I started to live my life from that space.
You do.
And it started to expand out into all of my relationships. And I'm known for my hugs.
Yes.
And so one of my cousins gave me one of the best compliments of my life. And she just said to me, I love your hugs so much. Every time you hug me, I feel like you're never going to see me again. Yeah. And it literally hits me in the heart and tears start showing up. And then another gentleman says to me, we spoke several times, and he said to me, every time I'm with you, I remember who I really am. Boom. Because of the level of presence and the love and like the way that I'm encouraging him and cheering him on. Yeah. And so all that to say, there was these dark moments, but then there was this lightness of I had a recognition, a perspective shift. It was like a catapulting of my spiritual maturity. Sure. That at 20, 21, 22, before he passed, I just started to realize the gift of life. And then I did some research on it, and I found out, at least at the time, every day roughly 150,000 people don't wake up. You weren't one of them. And if you're real fortunate, some or all of the people that matter most to you woke up too. And so you hit the jackpot right from the get-go. Right. And yet most of us walk around thinking something extraordinary, out of the ordinary has to happen in order for you to just have a good day. Right. So, and so if you come from that space of, if I take the hourglass and I turn it over, and then I ask you, how much sand do you have left? Right. We all have the same answer. I don't know. That's right. So then the question is, well, what are you doing with the sand you have left? And is whatever you're doing right now, somebody might say, pay attention, because you're paying. you're paying with your life force. You're paying with your attention, right? So whether you're investing money, energy, time, attention, regardless, you're spending that sand.
Yes.
So is however you're spending that sand worth it? Is it meaningful for you? Are you living your version of life, or are you living somebody else's version of your life? Are you living, or are you just existing, as all these kind of old, true cliches go?
Sure.
And so I started to recognize that, 2 of my cousins passed away in the 3 years I was taking care of my dad young. One was 19, one was 20, one was 21. And if you had asked either guy when they were 17 or 18, tell me about the life, the goals, the dreams, all the things, at least from as far as I can tell, I don't think either guy would say I'd be dead in 2 years.
Right.
And so there's a perspective that I had always heard attributed to the Buddha. The problem is you think you have time. And so how many of us are living our life from procrastination? I'll do it later. There's that person I want to ask out, but I don't know if they'd be open to that. They're probably not going to be interested. They've got a partner already, or there's a business we want to start, or we want to exit, or we want to do whatever. And there's a story that we have about why now is not the time.
Yeah.
And there's a practical component to that. Maybe it isn't, but there is often a space where you're living from fear. You're not living from faith. Oof. You're not stepping into courage. You're stepping into scarcity and, let's say, timidity.
Right.
And if you come from that space, you're not going to make decisions that you're proud of later. Ooh. And so after my dad's passing, I just shifted the way that I lived my life, because at his wake, it was 5 hours, over 7,000 people came. I shook every single person's hand. My dad was a family practice physician. Almost everyone, every walk of life, culture, religion, dress, it was beautiful. The line never ended.
Yes.
And they would walk up and they'd say first, is it okay if I show my respects or pray in my own kind of way?
Yes.
And it's absolutely. And they did that. And then they would shake my hand, and almost everyone, probably 95%, said, your dad saved my life.
Ooh.
And I had this knowing in that moment. First, I was humbled by the impact. Most of them hadn't seen him since he was 49 or younger. He passed at 53. And there I was realizing I had been playing small, that I was afraid of rejection, that I was robbing the world of who I could be, and I was dimming my shine, because what if they didn't like me? What if they laughed? What if they didn't accept me? What if they thought whatever I wanted was dumb, or whatever it might be? And then when I thought about my 2 cousins that passed, and then I realized I don't know how much sand I have left. Right. I started to live my life as much as I knew how to, knowing that in the future I would know more, and when I knew better, I'd do better. But at least the goal, how do I live my life fully and actually take my shot and not hold myself back? And that's the big picture version of the story. And so when people look at their life right now, who right now is in your world that you love, and you think they know I love them, but they don't feel your love. Mm-hmm. Or where is there right now a child maybe that when you give them a hug and you send them off to school, when you do whatever it is you do, you hug them a little bit tighter, because you never know. What happens when you're driving? I can be in shape, I can be eating well, I can be doing all the good stuff, but when I'm on that morning run and the drunk driver rounds the corner, he doesn't care. Yeah. And so if we come from that space of, as a closing statement for this, I remember a couple of years ago, I had an aunt and uncle, grew up with them in New York. They moved to Virginia. I hadn't seen them maybe in 1 to 3 years. They came to visit for the week at my mom's home. And so we were all staying there together. And every evening from 7 p.m. to around midnight, we all just sat in the living room and told stories and laughed and cried and talked. And I never had that kind of experience with them for 5 days. And it was the most fulfilling, beautiful experience. And then at the end, they're leaving. They're pulling out of the driveway, and I'm waving, and this thought comes into my mind, and it was so perfect. And the thought was, if that was the last time I ever saw them, that was worthy of being the last time. Right. And so my question for everyone listening, if the last time you saw your spouse, the last time you saw your partner, the last time you saw your child, if the last time you were on a podcast, if the last time you spoke at an event, if the last time you pitched your product, your service, your business, if the last time you did whatever was the last time, was it worthy of being the last time, or would you want another crack at it? And the fact that you're alive right now, you likely have another crack at it. Right. And you could send that text right now.
That's right.
You might not see them for an hour or a week, or you can do something right now to make that situation better. You can change the way you live your life. And if you do that, I always say the present moment is pregnant with the next moment. So if you want a better tomorrow, the only way to have a better tomorrow is to have a better today. And the only way to have a better today is to have a better now, because now creates the next moment. And so if I look at a child, usually the child looks like one or both of their parents. If I have an apple, I know it came from an apple tree.
Right.
Because the effect resembles the cause.
Yeah.
But this moment is going to give birth to the next one. So if you don't like this moment,
right,
if you don't do anything this moment to change it,
that's right,
don't expect tomorrow to be that different.
That's right.
So people say, I probably shouldn't curse on the show.
You can tee it up, man.
But people, it's like, oh, how you doing? It's, oh, same shit, different day.
Yeah.
And then it turns into, it's only same shit, different day because you're being the same version of you that created the same old shit.
That's right.
And if you actually shift right now and say it's either that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, or I don't want this kind of relationship anymore, or I deserve more, or I want more, or it's whatever, it's available.
Yeah.
But it requires the courage to do something about it the only time you can, which is now. And I tell people courage doesn't mean fearless. Courage means you're afraid, but you do it anyway because whatever's on the other side of that fear is more important to you. Yeah. And the life that you could live, the impact that you could have for yourself, your family, your community, the world, I'm promising you it's bigger and more important than whatever you're afraid of.
You know, I've known parts of this, but I love having these conversations. I'm like, wow. And what struck me just now was, a lot of people can rely on, let's say, AI for getting feedback, and wonderful resource. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful resource. But for everybody listening, I hope you're understanding that many of them don't have evidence or examples of what living in the present moment is. And as someone who has known you and has coached you and all these things, I'm realizing, and I'm like, and I've said this to you in different ways, but I'm just going to say some things out loud here for a second. You are a walking embodiment of that. You are an experience for people to, when they hire you, like, they don't have you in their life. They don't have a lot of examples. The vast majority of humanity is living in the past, fear, sadness about the past and fear of the future, like all the time. Yeah. The present moments are being tainted by all those things. And I've certainly had that percentage of my life. When they're hiring you, they're hiring an experience that their body can, and I've said this to you, most people do not have a regulated nervous system. And they're walking around in a dysregulated state the vast majority of their day, especially high performers and people that got a lot of moving parts and conflict at home and conflict at work and fights and this and that. They think it's normal. But I've come up with this kind of notion around the collective regulation of the collective's nervous system. And I believe the work that you've done on yourself and as your natural state is what others get to entrain off of. And so they don't, I'm just going to say to everybody listening, like, you don't meet someone like Dr. Jamil, like, every day of your life. Not because I believe we're all ordinary, we're all chosen, but you've actually done the work to be that piece that would become the evidence of someone to go, I could live my life like that. I could live in the present moment. I could live in a now moment. I love how you're saying, like, it's this, like, right now. How would you just take people in? How would you say, and thank you for all this. I mean, I hope everybody's paying attention. I always say, pay the fuck attention, because if you just listen to what's going on and start making new decisions accordingly, your whole life, their whole life will be radically different. Michael, who's sitting here, his life could be radically different from just hearing some of these pieces. How might I literally sat there, like, there's two of us in the room with you and then everybody else. How might both of our lives be different if we just acted upon it? In working, people have a lot of choice of who they work with and why they hire somebody or don't hire somebody, and they got AI here. You've chosen a very unique path of going the route of becoming a doctor, and you've studied Huna and Reiki and all these other pieces. Like, what's that? How is that combo pack different for any high performer out there who's listening, or anyone listening for that matter, that combination of pieces that you've put together?
Yeah. Thank you for everything you shared.
You're welcome.
I receive it fully.
That's
and
my
I
truth.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
My absolute truth
Yeah.
about you.
Thank you.
And you know I don't mince words and I don't blow smoke up people's asses.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
this is my experience of you.
Thank you. What I have found is that most people are focusing in the personal development kind of space on action or strategy and mindset. Those
Yeah.
are the two that I see the vast majority of people honing in on.
Yeah.
Now, very important, crucial aspects of the equation.
Right.
You know, if you don't, you can have the greatest, beliefs and the greatest thoughts, but if you don't take any action, your life's not really going to change. You can have ideas of a new business and a new product and service, but if you never share it with anybody, it's not going to go out into the world and be born, right? So of course you need the action, you need the strategy. And then there's the mindset part. What's the story you tell? How do you relate to things? But what I alluded to earlier is upstream of both of those, and it's that core blueprint. And so what is the programming that you're not aware of? So it's like the computer can only do what the software kind of tells it to do.
Yeah.
The computer can only run the programs that it has. And what if the programs have viruses in them? What if the program is not actually set up to support you winning in the life that you want to have? And so when I think about the work I do, if I may just use this as an illustration, I think of us as a quadrinity: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so imagine you have like an onion, and that's the core, and that represents the physical structure. And then outside of it, you've got one layer out, and you've got the emotional. And then you've got the mental, and then you've got what I'm calling the energetic or the spiritual. And so the thing is, healing happens, and healing is not just physical. It could be like a health condition, but it could be healing relationships. It could be healing your relationship with yourself. It could be whatever that is. Healing is a trickle-down effect that happens from the outside in. And so there's the spiritual component, which I'm calling who you are, right? That's the you before the world told you who you are.
Boom.
That's the you minus the stories of limitation that you've bought into because dad said you weren't good enough, or because your teacher said you were dumb, or because whatever happened when you were 7. It's like these kind of, when you take all that away, and maybe you had, I don't think of it as failure, but it's like using the word most people would use. It's like you had these failures, you made it mean something about you, and now you don't try anymore. Or you don't try as much because you see, you identify with it. I am a failure. Versus I tried some things and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. It's a very different thing.
Sure.
So if we say I am this outer portion, this spirit, let's say, and that's, let's say, represented as pure light, as it's coming into the physical to incarnate moment to moment, it passes through that first layer. That's the mental layer. And that layer is where you have all these beliefs about yourself and about others in the world. And that's what's going to stop you from showing up as congruently and powerfully as you could. And then when that happens, that light gets distorted. That light gets dimmed. The shine is not as bright. It's not as real because it's not actually who you are. But then it gets further distorted because then it goes into the emotional level. And in that level, you're carrying this guilt that you've been holding on to for years or decades. You've got unexpressed grief because somebody passed away that was really close to you. Could have been a parent, a spouse, a grandparent, a child, something. And you didn't know how to deal with that. And, because no one ever teaches us that.
Yeah.
And it's the most devastating experience. And you felt like you had to be strong for everybody else. And you're holding it in. And you got a story. Like, I can handle it. I'm tough. And it's like, that's true until it isn't. It's like you can hold it, but at some point you kind of start bursting at the seams a little bit, or a lot. And so you have this emotional reality that further distorts that light. And then it shows up in the physical. And that's your day-to-day waking experience of life. And in that physical, either you have it could be both. You have the dis-ease in the system. It might start off as, I'm just always tight. I've got tension all over my body. I always need a massage, whatever it might be. Or it could be, I've got this lack of ease. I'm anxious all the time. Well, why am I anxious? I'm living in fear about a future, but why? Because my shadow, my subconscious is projecting out all the things that I hope don't happen, or I've got these beliefs that are running the show that I am deathly afraid are true.
Right.
Because I don't have evidence otherwise per se. And I'm doing kind of like the guy who's saying, I want to be number one and maybe my dad will love me. All his high achieving behavior is rooted in a lie. If I do this, then dad will love me. Woo. And so if we come from that space, most people that I found, again, they focus on what's the strategy, what's the mindset. Now, the right strategy with the wrong mindset is probably going to fail, especially consistently. You might get lucky one-off or something, but in general, you take the right action at the wrong time, you get pain. You can take the right action with the wrong mindset, doesn't usually work consistently. Right mindset, no action, or wrong action doesn't work. But the right action with the right mindset with really crappy programming,
Right.
you will sabotage. You'll create some success, but you will sabotage. You won't know why. You will feel something's missing. There will be some sense of a void. And as I've worked with people playing bigger games, it's fascinating that when they've quote unquote won the money game or they've won the time freedom game and they seemingly have the family and the kids and the house and everything, and then I talk to them and they just tell me, and I tell them, look, everything we talk about is confidential.
Yeah.
You can share anything with me. It will be received without judgment. And the more you lean in, the more you share, the more I'll be able to help you. You will get more from this if you're fully here. And they start sharing. And the amount of times I hear, I've never heard anybody, I've never told anybody that before,
Right.
is countless at this point. But then I hear it, and it's like, okay, you've been carrying all this. Are you ready to put it down? Like, you don't have to carry this weight anymore. And so I think, similar to what you had said earlier, we're all unique. We're all special. We all have, people who work with people. I have such an honor for that. Anyone who wants to make a positive impact for others. And my hope is that they're doing the best they know how to do.
Yeah.
And my goal, one of my quotes, not my quotes, one of my favorite quotes is from The Way of Mastery. And it's the master has mastered the art of being a student forever.
Yes.
And so it's the idea that I see mastery as a never-ending journey. There's never a point where I've quote-unquote arrived, where I got it all figured out. I don't have to learn anymore. So at any given moment, I'm reading like 6 books at once. I've got like 7 courses minimized on my computer that I'm going through, and I'm working with you, and I've got whatever else I'm doing in my life. But it's because when I look at that course, when I look at that book, I don't just see it as it's information. No, that course, that book, that coaching program, that whatever, this is going to be the reason somebody tells me in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, we didn't get a divorce because of that.
Boom.
I'm alive because of that.
That.
I had someone tell me they didn't commit suicide because of
That's right.
conversations that we had. They weren't even a client of mine.
That's right.
We were just talking, and I didn't know they were in that dark of a space.
Right.
But my love for them gave them, oh, somebody cares.
That's right.
Right? And so I just come from that space of, rather than, one of my mentors had this perspective that I really liked, where somebody said, so I'm wanting a coach. That's why I'm talking to you. And the guy goes, oh, you want a coach? And he goes, I can recommend a lot of coaches. And the guy goes, aren't you a coach? And he goes, well, there's coaches and then there's me. And if you want to work with a coach, I can recommend many. You want to work with me, then we can have a conversation. And it's the idea that I don't compare myself to others in a way that either puts me down or puts them down.
Sure.
But I do strive to compare myself to who was I yesterday? Am I wiser, smarter, more competent, whatever it might be, more authentic? And if somebody is wanting, as far as I'm aware, there's tools I don't have and there's trainings I don't have. And I have a toolkit that I have found to be complete, in the sense that physically, emotionally, mentally, and energetically or spiritually, there's magic here for you. And when you do the work there might be another way of doing work emotionally, mentally, energetically that I don't do, but they both will get you that same result.
That's right.
So it's not like there's a gaping hole. There's not something missing in the toolkit. And so when I come from that space, that's just, what makes me, in my opinion, it's not even unique or different, because I don't, again, try to come from that space of like being quote unquote special.
Sure.
I love people. I love seeing people lit up and love with their lives and love with themselves. I love when people tell me at the end of our work together, I was thinking about renewing and I'm actually going to hold off because all the issues I had are not there anymore. And I start to have challenges. And then rather than reach out to you, I think, what would he say to me?
That's right.
And then I help myself through it. And I tell them, you just put the biggest smile on my face, because I'm not trying to create this, like, you're dependent on me.
No.
I want you to have the conversations in your mind with yourself that you and I have when we're together.
That's right.
And if I've done that, then I have done my job.
That's right.
Because now you are way different for the rest of your life. And something that has been so true for me, both in our work as well as in the work with my clients, there's 2 time frames. There's like the short term and the long term. The short term is whatever the agreement might be. So some people, I work with them for a couple hours, a week or two. Some people we're together for a year or several years. But regardless of the duration of the time, what's going to happen for the rest of your life when those unlocks happen and the blocks are gone?
That's right.
And you have a whole different trajectory. And it's like compounding interest. In the beginning, sometimes you might have a great year and it might look like a decent return. But often it's a smaller increase, and you look at the graph and it doesn't look like much is happening.
That's right.
10, 20, 30 plus years, and you see this hockey stick and this massive improvement. Right. And when I have people tell me, my daughter said I got my dad back after there was a gentleman, one of his daughters passed away, and he had one other one, and 25 years go by, and he just felt like he was a shell of his former self, and his relationship fell apart as a result of the death of his child, and his daughter was speaking with grandma. And the daughter goes, oh yeah, I lost my dad, when my sister died. And grandma goes to her son and goes, this is what your daughter told me. You got to fix this.
Yeah.
And he started going through all these different personal development things and trainings and seminars. And he went to this one in California, and they did some work with him, and they identified, okay, this is the issue. This is the problem. We found it. That's the good news. And they go, the bad news is we don't know how to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. We don't know how to help you.
Right.
And this is an example of that was mindset. Like they knew the mindset, right? They knew the surface level, but they couldn't fix it. And then it just worked out. I come from a space of there's not a coincidence or an accident. One of my previous clients was at that event, met the guy that day. They became friends. He told them about the situation, and the lady said, oh, you should talk to Jamil.
Yeah.
And we had a call, 5.5 hours of an experience, freedom from all of it. 6 weeks later, his daughter says to grandma, I got my dad back.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple months, everyone in his life who's known him for the last 25 years, but not before that, they're like, who's this guy? Mm-hmm. Because he was so powerful, and he stepped into the room and he was authentic, and he owned who he was, and he was fun, and he was playful, and he didn't hold himself back, and he has peace, and everything on his vision board came true, and all these things. That was like 5 years ago.
Right.
And I spoke to him the other day, and he goes, my life is the best it's ever been.
That's it.
And then decades to go.
That's right.
So you sit there and you go, like, that's what's on offer, and it's like the rest of your life.
That's it.
And that to me is when I show up with as much unconditional love as I can, without any attachment to an outcome, because in my opinion, that just gets in the way. And I want to be as generous in my listening. I want to be as fierce and respectful in my calling out of you and calling up of you as possible. And I want to be able to support you in freeing yourself from the blocks that you have that maybe you've been having for a long time.
Yes.
And when all that comes together, I've had so many of my client testimonials. It's fascinating to me that in the beginning, I had this pressure I put on myself when I first started my business. People want like a monetary outcome. So I got to be a business coach.
Right.
And this is what they want. And so I'm coaching them around their business, and business was growing. And then I get these testimonials, and people say, I hired Jamil to grow my business, and my business grew. But we didn't spend much time on my business. We talked a lot about me.
Right.
And it's like, knowing what I know now, it's like, yeah, because you're the common denominator, you're the bottleneck. And if we can open that up, free the concern, the limitation, all that, everything improves. Yeah. And so now it's really enjoyable for me because I get to put off the business coach hat.
Yeah.
There's people who can do that, like yourself, excellently.
Sure.
And I just come from a space now of how can I help you create the most magnificent, extraordinary, beautiful life possible that's filled with peace, self-love, all your relationships thriving, and as a result of that, you taking the actions that flow from there, and then the business grows and the finances improve and all these things happen, but it's a consequence, it's a side effect.
Yeah.
And that to me is, I guess, how I'd answer your question for now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they'll go, well, peace, self-love. Okay, for everybody listening who's like, that's not enough of a motivator, it's the shift away from all those things that you hopefully, as you're listening, they know, oh, shoot, but all those other things are getting in the way of the most extraordinary. So even if they won't prioritize the most extraordinary life, you'll probably start prioritizing, I don't want fear, guilt, shame, anger, insecurity, worry, doubt, all those things that they know are going on, I'm not enough, all those core stories, which are in there, right? And I love how you pointed out that even the highest achievers will have these narratives going on, if not the loudest, that's driving them. The other piece that I want to name for everyone to know that is, you can, because of your combination of studies. And by the way, what I love about you is you don't study anything like quarter way. This guy right here studies everything to like level 10. Whatever he picks, he studies it like full throttle, like repeat, listening as high. Is there any higher level of study of this thing possible? Give it to me. I'll go for it. You're not a dilettante, right? You don't just dip your toe in. But is that you can, because of your studies from doctors to mindset to somatics to all these pieces, you can listen to someone's cancer diagnosis all the way through any of these range. And that's not every day in the phone book. You just open up and someone can literally hear like not just dis-ease, but disease.
Yeah.
And go, okay, what could we begin to shift? They'll start changing that internal environment. I know you've had very successful people, give you a crack at bat, around the heaviest stuff going on. Not that you can make promises and all that, but can you speak into that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to just close the loop on that you had mentioned right before, those people that are playing like the biggest games and from the way society deems it, they're creating the biggest impact, the biggest companies, the most success. Those people have the most to lose. And those people,
right there,
if they were to solve the issue, remove the block, it's the biggest return. They've got the massive company with all the employees, or they've got the family, or they've got
right there.
They've got the more money to lose, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so it's like those are the people, in my opinion, we all should take it seriously. But the more you have to lose, I would think the more you'd want to pay attention.
That's right.
And then to speak to the other aspect of it, I feel very privileged and blessed and grateful to get to be trusted by people to facilitate healing work.
Yes.
I don't ever see myself as the quote unquote healer.
Right.
I see it as whatever you want to call that, God, source, universe. That comes through and I'm the vessel. And my job is what can I do every day? The work I do with people, I do it on me every day.
Right.
And so what can I do on me to remove all those blocks so that I can be the clearest channel for this person? Excuse me. And if I am showing up in that way, this person has that diagnosis. It could be cancer, chronic pain, autoimmune. There was a woman that I got to work with. She had an autoimmune condition, and it was rheumatoid arthritis, and she's had it since she was 20 years old, and she's 54 or something like that. And she walks in. It was the first time I ever met her, and I was a student. I was in medical school. Her chart's like this thick, and she's the kind of person that everybody's tried all the things that you could possibly give from a conventional perspective, but they've even thrown some holistic things, supplements, things like that. Maybe some improvement, but not anything major. And now she's in my shift as a student. And I'm sitting there going, I don't really know as a student what else medically to do for you that you haven't already gotten. But I had time and I thought, let me just like take the doctor hat off or the medical student hat off. And let me put on, I didn't do the energy work per se at the time I do now, but I did do the release work and the blocks. And so I put that hat on. I started talking to this lady. And hopefully this picks up a whisper. So she's talking to me like this. And the whole conversation, she's whispering. And then I say, can you share what's going on? And they don't know. Like no one knew what's wrong with her voice. They've scoped her chords are fine. And it's been like that. And she has this chronic pain. And she's walking like a hunchback. But nothing's wrong. And she's dragging her foot and all these issues are going on. And she's in a ton of pain every day, 8 out of 10, burning nerve pain. Full right side of her body, like she's on fire. The best they can do is get her to a 5 or 6 out of 10 with a lot of medication and some injections. And so I start speaking with her and I start thinking, okay, this woman's got this tremendous fear that her daughters who are in college around the country are going to find out about how severe her condition is. And if they found out, they would basically quit school, come take care of her, and their life would be ruined. That's her paradigm, which I can, logically wrap my mind around. I don't want to like burden them in that way or something. But her level of concern and fear for this just felt so disproportional that I thought there's absolutely something there. And we start talking. I said, can you tell me about your relationship with your mother growing up? And she tells me, and this nerve pain was a car accident that was like 13 years prior that started. Sorry, this is a different person. But she had this issue, and there was so much abuse. And so helped her forgive her mother and release all the stuck emotions, all the stuck beliefs. We did that in 45 minutes. And we did some hypnosis, so she's in a trance. She starts with her shoulders all the way up, and she's got the shoulders up, the voice is not there. At the end of it, shoulders down, voice is back, no pain.
Wow.
She comes back a week later for a follow-up. She brought us food, bags of food.
Right.
And she's got tears in her eyes. She goes, I've had no pain for the last week. I'm on no medications. This is the first time I've had no pain in decades.
Wow.
And it was just the most beautiful experience. And it's not to say that sometimes a physical problem is a physical thing.
Yes.
So if somebody is doing great and then they trip and they break their leg or something and the bone needs to be set and there's ways of doing it, great. I get into a car accident, I got a pipe in my chest, get me to the ER, get me all the drugs, like do all the stuff, save my life, please. The system's extraordinary for that. But often, not always, often, the chronic diseases, why does a disease become chronic? Because it was mismanaged acutely. So something wasn't managed properly acutely and it built up over time. And sometimes you think, I'm healthy. I got some symptoms, but I can ignore it. I'm healthy. I take the non-prescription, medications over the counter to just soothe out the symptoms and stuff like that. And then you go to the doctor and you get that diagnosis. And it feels like it came out of nowhere. But nothing comes out of nowhere. Like it's been building for however long. But in my experience, those big hitters, people with the cancers, the autoimmune, things like that, chronic pain, almost always there's a mental component, an emotional component, an energetic component, but it sometimes is the cause. And if you remove the cause, and then because it's already shown up in the body, there's some work you got to do on the physical to support the system in healing, detoxing, cleaning up. But over a long enough time horizon, assuming the system has what it needs, the body can heal, sometimes fully, and sometimes to just dramatically better ways than it was before. And when I get to be a part of that, it's a piece of the puzzle that most people don't have. So they've got all these practitioners, and they say, I've worked with the best of the best. There was one more guy, if I may share. He was a gentleman in California. I was in New York. And I had just gotten trained in energy work. This is back in like 2022. I was very skeptical about it. And I didn't grow up around this kind of stuff. And I just had that intuition saying it's time. And so I went and I did it. And I just listened. Now I obey. When that comes through, I just listen.
Right.
And so I get this gentleman reaching out, and he says, can you help my brother? I never met his brother, but I knew that guy. And I said, yeah, I'll talk to him. But he's in California. I'm in New York. I don't know how much help I could be, but I'll talk to him. And he had a previous like really aggressive cancer diagnosis. He'd worked through a bunch of stuff, and he seemed to be in the clear now. And then a couple years go by, and now he has all these symptoms. A lot of them are neurological. And we start having this conversation, and I say, he's a very wealthy guy, and I said, look, you've worked with all of the people in the conventional world, and some even in the holistic space, that I would think to recommend you to. I said, he's very religious, and I do what I can to meet people where they're at. And I said, do you believe God brings people together for a reason? And he goes, absolutely. And I said, I got trained in something recently that I'm feeling called to share with you. Worst case, it's going to sound really weird.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, nothing happens. Best case scenario, there's a miracle. And I said, are you open to that? And he goes, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I explained it. And I said, and I can do it over Zoom. And he looked at me like, how? And then it's like, I explained it. We had a conversation about it. He's like, okay. So we meet over Zoom. Over the call, he had back pain. He had all these things in addition to some really severe things that I wasn't aware of yet. On the call, got rid of the back pain, got rid of the knee pain. And then he felt me too. And he was like, that's extraordinary. The next day, I get a message from him. And he tells me, I just got my brain scan results from my neurologist. And the brain scan results showed this guy had multiple brain aneurysms and strokes. My dad died of a brain aneurysm. But it's like they hadn't gone off yet. But they were it's like a ticking time bomb. But they were so significant and severe, the doctors said, there's nothing we can do for you. They gave him a prognosis of about 6 weeks to live before they, let's say, projected onto him a major stroke that would kill him. They said, get your affairs in order. So imagine getting that kind of prognosis. He tells me that, and I tell him, over the next, however many days, I'm gonna go until we heal. I am going to. We don't have to have a Zoom call. On my own, I will do energy work for you, and I did that for 9 days. And then I went on a walk, and I called it my conversation with God. And I just like, you know what? I really want to believe that this energy stuff is real. I really want to believe it works. There's like 10 people I've worked with. They've all had results and pain's gone away and things have happened. But I'm skeptical, and I'm thinking maybe it was something else. Maybe they took something, they tried something. How do I know it was this? And I said, you got to give me something that's so big, that's so like I can't justify that result any other way because I'm stubborn right now. And you got to give me something. And the next day, I get a video text message from this gentleman. He's in the hospital. He's got his hospital gown on. He's laughing. He's crying, same time. And he's telling me, just did a brain scan. His brain's completely normal. No sign of anything. The doctors are calling it impossible and a miracle. And they were double checking because they thought they had the wrong scan.
Right.
Because like these things don't go away.
Right.
But the thing is, like, the unwritten or the unspoken part is these things don't go away within this paradigm.
Right.
These things don't go away within the context of the training I have, what I have seen, what my colleagues have seen, the world I live in. And that's not a knock on conventional medicine.
Sure.
They do extraordinary work.
Yes.
But it's recognizing that we all have limits to our knowledge base.
Yes.
And so when I was in school, I remember there was a quote that one of the elders in the profession shared. There are no incurable diseases, but there are incurable patients.
Whew.
And it's the idea that a person could be so far down the line that they're very frail and their system is weak and they don't have a lot of energy to mount a healing response. That's the kind of person that the healing response might even kill them.
Right.
And if somebody's that far gone, there's still hope, but it's different. I don't judge it in that way as we got to cure it. It would be more, can I give you peace?
Yes.
Can I support you in letting go of anything you're holding on to that feels like it's an open loop or an unfinished thing?
Yeah.
And if you get the cure, beautiful. I always have space for the miracle. I see those happen more so than many people, and I feel so fortunate about that. But at the end of the day, like you said, that can't ever be promised. That would be irresponsible of me to do. But I come from a space of, if it was me, especially if like I'm motivated and I go, I want to make sure that there's no stone unturned. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to create this result because I want to live and I want to be here. And if I'm getting the best of conventional, another way of saying that is you're getting the best of physical to a certain degree.
Sure.
But I said you're a quadrinity.
Yes.
So what are you doing emotionally, mentally, and energetically? And if the answer is either nothing or a little bit, you're probably not getting to the depth that you could be, and you might be blocking the healing. And so when doctors say everything's normal in all of your blood work or your scans or everything, but you have all these symptoms, it's not that everything is normal, but it's like what they're testing is normal. And you've got, that's when it's usually a mental, emotional, energetic thing. Or it's, I'm getting the treatment and I'm responding, but it's really delayed and I'm not getting better at the speed that is normal, in normal in quotes, like expected, let's say. There's something blocking it. There's something going on. And I just come from a space, I want to be holistic in my understanding.
Yes.
And so I'm always trying to question, what don't I know? I'm always trying to question, excuse me, what's lacking in my awareness that would prevent me from helping this person? And how can I plug that as fast as possible? And then once I plug it, that's that commitment to mastery. And once I can plug that hole, I can be with the person in front of me, knowing that everyone's going to have a unique experience, but I am going to show up 100% with everything I have and everything I am. And I'm going to, as the old expression goes, let God sort out the rest.
That's right. I hope everybody's paying attention there. That is such a unique angle on medical systems and healing systems and high performance and living an optimal life. And, what I think I really hear underneath it all is, is one willing to raise their hand and say, it could be better? And, as we're closing up here, we could go hours here. For anyone who's, whether it's high performance or leadership or whatnot, what's your final message for them in a couple minutes for what you'd want them to take away from you and consider as a possibility, whether it's working with you or exploring? What would you want to say to them?
Yeah, I would. Thank you for that. I would first say, listen to this all again.
Yep.
And when you listen to it again, I remember one of my mentors along the way, his name's Steve Chandler. I think you know him personally, I think.
Yep.
And he said, you know, when he's reading, he reads once for information, twice for transformation.
Whew.
And it's that idea that you listen to this the first time. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're listening to it like I do sometimes at like 2.5x speed.
Right.
And you're doing what you're doing. And that can be great. And you're going to get value. And there are some seeds that were planted that'll sprout either immediately or later. Wonderful. But there's going to be things that you miss. And there's going to be things that you get to the end, you're not the same person who listened to it at the start.
That's right.
And so when you restart it, then you go, I missed that the first time.
That's right.
And so that's the first recommendation, to listen to this again.
Yes.
And then don't just listen, apply.
Yes.
It's so easy to, you know, I love that term. There's some books behind me over here. It's like, this is shelf help.
Right.
You know, if you don't actually
Shelf
use it,
up. Oh.
you know, you read it and then you put it on the shelf and it looks like a trophy. It's like a nice thing, but is your life any better? And if the answer is no, then it's like, or it's not as good as it could be. Are you using all of the resources? And so this podcast, this conversation could literally transform every aspect of your life, from business to relationships to health to whatever, if you actually implement what we talk about.
Yeah.
And so that's the first part. The second part is to just tune in. What areas of my life would I love to be better? Mm-hmm. What areas of my life would it be fantastic if they were more exciting, more impactful, more fulfilling? It doesn't need to be what areas suck. Mm-hmm. It could be that, but it's like, what could be more amazing? And if we come from that space and then you realize whatever challenges you're dealing with externally, that could be business, that could be relationships, that could be health, or internally, the mental emotional side of it could be lack of purpose, lack of fulfillment, lack of love, internal critic that's crazy loud all the time.
Yep.
Whatever that might be. There was people I've worked with, very successful in business. Their primary driver internally is, you're an idiot. Yeah. And they just literally like use that to berate themselves to take action. Right. Because that's what mom always did to them. Yeah. And so it's like, whatever it is that you're carrying, I can promise you don't have to carry it anymore. Yeah. And whatever it is that you'd like in your life, it's available for you. Obviously, there's work on your end to be done. Yeah. And there's new actions to be taken. And I'm going to, if it's me you're working with, I'm going to call you up to play the level of game that's required to have the life that you say that you want. Yeah. But if you will show up in that way, if you will say, you know, whatever level I'm at right now, it might be fine. It might be pretty good. It might be good enough. It might be however you word it. It might even be great. But extraordinary is available. Yeah. And if that's what you're wanting, you just have to lean in. And when you talked about the raising of the hand, yeah. I find so many of us, we have this hesitation to ask for help. Yes. Because we think, I need to figure it all myself. That's right. I have to figure it out myself, do it on my own. And I feel like that's the most expensive belief that a person could have. Ooh. Why? I've been doing what I do for 21 years, certain things more, certain things less, but overall, 21 years. That includes going to medical school. That includes going like multiple, like almost $500,000 in debt. Yeah. That includes all this stuff. Yeah. Having my dad pass, taking care of him during that time, learning the lessons. You don't have to go through all that. Yeah. Like, let me help you. That's it. It's like when we come from that space of, I call it collapsing time. So it's like if something, I have clients that hire me and I'll say, what is it you want? And they'll say, I would love this or this or this or that. How long do you think that's going to take? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And I could see that if it was just an action mindset kind of thing. But when you work on how you're showing up in the world and removing the blocks, you collapse that time, you compress it. And I've had people have 10-year goals, 5-year goals, and it comes true in 10 months. It comes true in 9 months, 5 months. And it's so available. Put the ego to the side. Yep. And I say this respectfully. Don't allow your ego or your pride that I have to figure it out on my own. Otherwise, I'm like not enough or I'm worth less as a man or a woman because I couldn't do it on my own. The smartest people don't do it on their own. That's right. The smartest people will say, I am the owner of the company that's a multi-billion-dollar company, and I surround myself with all the people that are smarter than I am, and they know everything that I don't know. That's it. And it's like in that same kind of way. You can either spend the rest of your life getting the toolkit and the skill set and maybe get the result, but you spent your whole life trying to do it. Yep. Or we can get you the result in days, weeks, months, or a year.
Great.
And it's like that can change everything.
I love it. Tell listeners, how can they find you? Is website or social? Where?
Yeah, thank you. Just 10 seconds. The big thing, first of all, thank you so much for just being here. I love this man so much, and
mutual.
Michael's my new best friend. I love him too. And for everyone listening, thank you for just the time, the attention. I truly hope that something in this conversation stirred something in you. And if it did, to actually act on it. I'm going to segue into your answer here, your question. I have a podcast, and my podcast is called Transformation Starts Today.
Great.
And I call it that because I find that most people's favorite day to change their life is tomorrow. And that's why they stay stuck.
Right.
But your life can be different because you can change today. And that goes back to like the overall message of the podcast that we're talking about today. You know, if this has resonated, if you want to have a conversation, there's no obligation on that conversation. 30 to 60 minutes, let's just talk. Let's find out, what are you up to in the world? What's the game that you've been playing? What's the game you want to play? What's the results you want? What's been holding you back? I might not be able to help. And if I'm not, I'm going to let you know that. And hopefully I can point you in the right direction. But if I can, I'll let you know. And if we can create something together, that'd be magnificent. My website's my name, JamilSayegh.com. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Jamil Sayegh, DR, and then my name. And on Facebook and LinkedIn, it's just Jamil Sayegh. There's content out there. The podcast is extraordinary conversations, just like Alok and I are having. And I look forward to meeting you at some point if it's in the cards for us.
That's great. Well, everybody, I hope you've had a great show with us. I'm blown away. And as Jamil said, watch this a second time. Really take it in at least two times. And I hope that we have created an experience for you that creates at least one shift in your life that radically changes your life, your relationships, the way that you parent your kids, the way you show up in business, and what you unlock inside yourself. Reach out to him if any of this has resonated and take a next step. Thank you for being part of the Uplift Millions show community. It's an honor and privilege to be with you. My name is Alok Apadarai. Thank you for being here.